Greetings and welcome to the BlastCast. I am Jarvis. With me as always is Lightning Dragon. Well, not always, but just some of the time these days. He's been pretty busy.
Womp womp.
So today we want to talk a little bit about the things that went on during CitizenCon, and not just the general, you've seen all the panels and things like that, so we just don't want to rehash what's there. There's some things, as I watched the main presentation, that I want to tie back into some of the side panels and some thoughts that came along when I was seeing the overall development of the game and what they're intending to do and how things are moving. And that's the sound of notes. That's the sound of notes in my hand. I kind of went nuts and wrote stuff down when I was at work, kind of going over things and thoughts. So I'm going to kind of go over this, and there's some concerns that I have, but overall I think the presentation was fantastic, and I think that it's a lot of positivity for the upcoming development of Star Citizen, with the exception of Flight, which wasn't mentioned at all, and neither was Squadron 42. But I think Squadron 42 is being kept tightly under wraps until they're pretty much at this point in time ready to give us the first few missions to test or whatever they're going to do. I think it's very tightly under wraps. So let's go ahead and get into a little bit, and we'll start with probably one of the most controversial things, which is not mechanics related, which of course is the Carrack. And the more I look at the Carrack, I'm very neutral on the design. Some people are very unhappy with it. Some people are extremely happy with the change. Some people like the more modern, more solid look. They feel that it looks like it's a sturdier ship. For me, I'm about function, so we'll just have to see how it finally comes out. If they add a bit more detail to it and clean it up a bit, I think it'll be just fine. I still would like to see that seat overhang the glass like originally, instead of having that plate beneath it, because it would help you land on planets where you've never been before. But I guess we'll see what kind of feedback they take and go from there. But I own that ship. I'm excited to fly it, and it'll be coming out, I guess, in February, I think is what they said. It'll be part of a late release part of 3.8, which has just hit the PTU. They got into the whole eating and drinking and how it's going to be needed for survival. And I think this is a concern that Lightning and we've played survival games before. And while I don't have any issues with food and drink being needed at all, there's lots of considerations when it comes into a system like this. Like, it should start off, for example, like you get dehydrated a little bit. Maybe it affects, I don't know, your aim or your stamina or whatever. And as it goes down, eventually, maybe you don't take damage, but the severity of the effect gets worse and worse and worse, until eventually your character starts passing out. And if you don't take care of it, eventually your character passes out and just doesn't wait, goes into a coma or whatever. It has to be medically treated, and if not, if no one's around, you just die, like getting lost in the desert. The trick is, though, and Lightning, I think you agree with me on this, a lot of survival games take it way too far. Even games like Fallout 76 with food, you got to eat and drink all the time, and it gets obnoxious.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways of looking at it. There is the overcomplication side of things, where you have too many things you need to manage, and then you have the too frequent, where you need to eat or drink a lot more than like you would realistically. And if Star Citizen is if they're still going to go with this time acceleration thing, then does that mean the food and drink cycles are time accelerated? Are they independent? I mean, there's a lot of variables that are kind of up in the air on this. Like, I don't care if they want that to be a feature, but I want it to be like, if you log into the game, you can be like, okay, well, let me just get ready and stuff, and then you like get all your equipment or whatever, and then you like sit down and you eat. Hopefully there's some kind of fast eat option, because I don't want to sit there and watch my character eat for 20 minutes, because that'd be stupid. And then you're done for the whole day. I mean, if it's at that level, that's fine. Or maybe if you play for a really long time, you're playing for like 12 plus hours, because some people have that amount of time. Maybe when you start playing for a really, really long time, it's like, hey, you might want to consider like eating or drinking. Or if you're, exerting, or you're in a very hot climate, you might want to need to drink a little bit extra. If they do it in a way where it's a minor gameplay inconvenience, but to the point where it's still like, oh, hey, I should do this, then you're adding a little bit to the game without taking too much away. Because honestly, I don't see food and drink eating in Star Citizen adding anything to the game. It's that immersion thing that they keep wanting to have. Right, that's fine for immersion, but I don't see it really being a point.
Well, a couple other thoughts on that as you were talking about it. I thought, like, you have these environmental suits that are going to be coming out for extreme cold or extreme heat. What do you do when you're actually in a situation where you need to wear an environmental suit and you still need to eat and drink? So it's one of those things like, how do you is there like a little button, a candy bar shoots up from inside the helmet, shoves it in your mouth? I mean, how does that going to work?
You'd have a limited time unless it was. I mean, like there are certain suits that, because of the air conditioning kind of effect of it, you wouldn't really get thirsty more than normal. But like you think about modern day astronauts and stuff, right? There's a limit of how long you can be out there for various reasons, and one of them including eating and drinking. You can't just be out there for forever. And honestly, you're probably going to run out of oxygen before you'd ever need to freaking worry about drinking or eating.
Oh, that's true. But you could be in a harsh environment though that has breathable air and it's just too hot or whatever, and the suit can filter it. But I was thinking like I think some of the spacesuits have like these little straw things which have like a limited amount of liquid in them, just so you can like turn your head and that kind of thing. So to some degree, I mean, they could incorporate something like that. But it's an interesting question for those situations where you're on a very hostile environment and you still have to consider eating and drinking, how they're going to apply that when you have those kind of those sealed suits that are there to keep you from being destroyed by the elements. Of course, they showed off the new UI. Thankfully, I mean, they just showed the elevator version, but we've all been waiting so desperately for a new UI. The UI is extremely sloppy as it currently stands in the game. My biggest irritation on the UI, and I'm sure all of you have experienced this, is when you have to go through, say, the communications menu or whatever menu, and you're using the inner thought system, and you're trying to scroll down on whatever the panel is, and you're zooming in and you're zooming out because the two functions are mapped to the same thing. And I'm hoping that they can add some things like a scroll down bar or scroll down buttons, and so I don't have to deal with the fact that when I'm those two functions being mapped onto the same thing, that's a mechanical issue or a control issue, which just added to the pile. But the thing is that the ability to real-time update and live change these UI, maybe they can start doing some much more professional, better layouts, cleaner, easier to read layouts, and hopefully less holographic ones. So hopefully we'll see some major changes as these things get incorporated. Some of the ships you're going to see right now in the PTU, particularly I think with the Pisces, you see some differences in the way that the HUD is laid out. I think the only one using the new system for the HUD right now is the Gladius. So we'll have to see what kind of tweaks come in the future. But man, the UI changes can't happen fast enough, and they really need multi-layered coloring so we can see stuff on different backgrounds. It's just needed. The large orbital stations. This is epic. Now I can tell you right now, and I'm so glad that the NDA is dropped now so I can talk about stuff a little bit. The view from these looking down the planets is epic. And this is what the game needs, because these large stations, it's not just about having a station that, yes, you can log out in them, you can log back in on those stations. And it's not just because they're large with malls, that's cool. These stations are very much needed for, like, I have a Hull D. I need this station so that I can go ahead and dock, unload my cargo, and it creates jobs. And this will go back when we get a little bit into the whole quantum thing. It creates jobs or scenarios where the cargo's been delivered to a station. Now someone who has, like, say, an Aurora can get a mission from the plant to go pick up some cargo and bring it back and forth from space to ground, or NPCs or whatever. Or, these kind of scenarios where large ships, you have to dock them in space, so you have to get a shuttle to go down to the ground, and maybe you could hire a player or you could hire NPCs. These large-scale stations in orbit are absolutely needed to make a lot of these cargo and these cargos and other sub-jobs kind of pop up. So, and the view is gorgeous. The view is absolutely worth the price of admission. It looks like when they first showed ArcCorp a long time ago, and they were on that station looking down. It's epic. Absolutely fantastic job. The art guys, once again, is CIG. Magnifique. Beautiful stuff. Of course, the version 4 planets. Breathtaking. And the rework. This is what impressed me. They reworked all the planets that they have currently in 2 months to show you the speed in which now they're going to be able to turn systems around. Because basically, for the most part, the Stanton system is almost completely done. To be able to rework all the planets in 2 months means that as these systems develop, I can imagine them turning, a new system into the game every, 1.5, 2 months to be able to do that on the back. And once they get all the major development stuff done. Now you got to keep in mind, and having made mods and stuff for games myself, I can tell you reworking something sometimes takes more time than it took to originally build it. So if they can rework the planets and keep like those stations and things on them in 2 months, that's impressive, because I've made many levels and things like that where I've had to go back in and rework stuff. and it has taken way more time than it took me to lay it out in the first place, because that's where all the little, man, I've got all this stuff established and I still have to make it work. I need these changes, and you're trying to make it all come together. That's impressive. It really is.
Editing already placed assets can be more work than just placing new assets.
Yeah, absolutely. So as if you probably noticed by now by the notes, they're bringing back look ahead mode. And they talked about it a bit on Inside Star Citizen. The idea basically that as you turn, your head organically moves with the turn. If you like lean to the right and you're in a gravity field, your head kind of leans. If you rotate to the right, your head kind of leans to the left a little bit to try to keep the horizon line. It's a very organic feel. Originally, LAM was one of the options used to control gimbals. It was pretty popular with stick users. It still wasn't as accurate as IM, but it was way more usable than the eventual what they did, which was dump LAM basically entirely. I don't think they're going to be using it for any sort of gimbal control. In fact, I hope they still move away from manual gimbals from pilots entirely. But there were some features and functionality of LAM that, in a lot of regards, imitate having head tracking, and for those who don't have head tracking. And so I'm very, very happy to see that come back in. And it does add that nice, smooth feel of, you're actually organically in a ship instead of just being a fixed camera position, which always feels wrong to me. Now, as far as way trees and rocks and things are distributed on these new planets, they're changing the way they're doing them. They're being generated in a real-time manner. They're created by the topography and how everything is laid out. They're not placed the same way they were before. And this is basically give better fidelity and keep the performance the same. And it also allows them to generate these things much faster. This goes back to what I was talking about with generating systems and planets much quicker, where all that can be laid out in a very sensible manner, extremely quickly, and have very quick turnaround. Now, they showed off new Babbage, and one of the things that they wanted to do with development was they wanted to remove the walls and open it up a lot, so the city looked like it was not just a walled fortress. And it is a gorgeous city. It looks amazing. Now, obviously, right now, you can't go into it. It's not fully developed. But the question I have with this, when I look at the way this city and the rework of the planets, are they going to go back and rework these legacy cities? For example, right now, if you go to Lorville, and I don't know if you've seen this, but maybe you looked at the train, and sometimes I've seen situations where if you can fly close enough, some of these buildings are not attached to the ground at all. They kind of float. They didn't finish them because they didn't expect you to see them from that angle because of the way things are walled off and the way things are. So my question is that are they going to go back and retool these? Because honestly, when you look at New Babbage and you go back and look at Lorville, it is really like looking at Gen 1 versus Gen 2 kind of a graphics. It's noticeable. And I really do hope they go back and retool these things with this new technology. And I see a lot of retooling need to be done on these things. So one of the things that I think is fantastic, I know Lightning's going to love too, is that all the spaceports are going to have easy habs. So that means if you land your ship and log out, you're basically just going to have log right back in at the space station, no running through town and whatnot. That's what you want. That's quick and easy. My question is that when the game goes live, is it going to be like, because obviously it's a hotel essentially, right? I mean, are you going to go up to a terminal and just have to pay to rent a room, which would make sense. I mean, you're paying for a convenience. You may have a house at a location, but you're like, I don't want to take the train for 15 minutes. I'm just going to pay, 20 credits and stay at the Easy Hab. So I wonder if that's what they're going to do with that. But either way, great. Nice quick log outs and log back ins for those who want a little bit faster of an experience.
Yes, please.
The new Babbage Spaceport, they said, has 2 times the capacity of any other spaceport right now. And I can tell you from looking at it, yeah, it absolutely does. I think they need all these additional spaceports and all these landing pads and such because it's going to get a lot busier than just the players. Which, of course, goes back to the idea they may have to go back and retool things like Lorville, which has a relatively inconvenient spaceport.
I could see them leaving that spaceport, but having an additional one, a little bit on the outskirts.
Yeah, maybe.
As kind of if you had a freight train, right? If you go back to, United States, because that's where we live, and it's easy to reference that. When the train things were all being built up and stuff, a lot of industry and cities didn't exist then, but a lot of those railroads still exist to this day, and they've kind of been built around or maybe moved to a better location. So while that might be the original thing, maybe they go, okay, well, we need a unloading purely cargo station area, and that'll be off to the side where you have freight level trams. I don't know. I'm stuck on this trains thing for some reason. But you'd have like unloading of freight and cargo and stuff a little bit outside of the city where it can maybe be easier to access and move around.
Well, another thing they can do in Loreville, and it's something that I've seen for a while, is that gigantic building has landing pads all over it. And that was originally shown to have ability to land there. So they need to maybe open that up and allow that as a secondary landing site, or maybe even the primary. I don't know. But that thing has some massive landing spots on it if they just get it worked out and animated. And by the way, I'm going to mention this again for the 100th time. Those landing pads that you have to go down into, CIG, there's a reach. You've already shown you can do it with capital ships or large ships. Make the landing bay come up to the surface so the ships can land and then descend back down into the hangar, because it's very difficult for a lot of ships to, you don't have the situational awareness. If you just bring it up to the top, you land, and there's a lot of games that do this. So this is not like a unique idea. Ship descends, doors close, you're done. You tell them you want to lift off, doors open, thing comes up, you take off from the surface. Very simple. I think, because you've already shown you got the technology, please rework this. This is a major complaint for a lot of people trying to squeeze ships into a hole. It's like trying to play golf with your ship. So getting back to what I was talking about, the new Babbage landing zone, how it's twice as big. See, they finally set it up now that the AI can transition from location to location, from zone to zone. They have things like AI-controlled taxi services, which they showed off. And the AI can basically pick up NPCs at one base, take them over to another place, they can drop off and move into the new building. This is extremely important to the game, especially when you're dealing with what Tony Zurifik showed off, which was the whole quanta or quantum thing. I think he used both terms. I think quanta is the little particles or individual unit, and the quantum is the whole system. What Tony Z showed with this, the dynamic change in the economy, where the NPCs move depending upon where the jobs are or where the money is. This is brilliant, and it looks a bit on rails right now because we don't have jumping that lets you go off of the main lines currently. You can kind of trick the system a little bit by stopping your jump in midway and then picking another destination and shooting across that way. It's kind of a way of, but you still can't just pick a destination. The AI physically not only being generated by the quantum system of where it needs to go, but then actually, instead of just being a background simulation, when that dot is there, and as a player there, the fact that it can draw in that NPC going to that location or moving to that job, that's going to add so much. And also talking about bounty hunting and things like that, you need your targets to be able to have their own lives and where they're going and what they're doing. The transitioning from location to location, so very important to so many of these systems. And Tony Z, we love you, man. You're a genius. Keep up the good work. Between these two systems, this is what's going to make Star Citizen feel like it's alive, to be able to see that Bob is here, and that Bob is going to go work at the space factory, and that you can watch him get on a shuttle. He's going to go to that factory. You can fly to that factory, and there's Bob again. I don't know why we're following Bob, but there it is. And of course, 3.8 server-side OCS is in. Now, this is not the finished product, obviously, but until we can get server meshing, it is absolutely, we're still dealing with that 50 cap and sometimes the difficulties you have where you're trying to meet up with your friends, and it's like, okay, everyone quit back to menu because it's just easier this way, which we have to do a lot. But yeah, that's going to be going the way of the dough. I imagine this is going to be the year that we finally get the meshing. This server-side OCS. Now we have client-side, server-side meshing, and then we get the big one that just started in 3.8. Now I imagine there still might be a wipe or two when it goes live. But of course, platform persistence. This has been a huge one, I think, for almost everyone in the game. I think one of the most frustrating things for most people who play Star Citizen has been the constant wipes. Will there be wipes still occasionally? Yes, but not nearly as frequently from this point on. The ability to gain something, to earn something, to take it with you from build to build, that makes the game worth playing in a lot of regards. Even if all the mechanics, need any work, they need polish, or they need to completely be, dropped out of a helicopter. The thing is that this will incentivize people to play, that they don't feel like, oh. How many times, Lightning, have we tried to start doing a recording, and we start one day, we come in the next day, and it took us like an hour to get set up, and to come in the next day, and everything's gone again.
More than once.
Oh yeah, and I remember, and I don't think I recorded a lot of that, but there were expletives.
Yeah. Yeah, because the most recent one is, I think we were gonna do some ground missions. Because they had just added ground missions, and it's like, all right, well, there's been a server wipe or whatever, so we need to make sure we get all your armor. Now, I think you already have a bunch of armor just because of whatever backer reasons.
Yeah, yeah.
But I didn't have anything. All I had was the freaking default pistol and like an EVA suit or whatever. So we went in and we probably played for like at least 4 to 6 hours doing little missions and stuff, and eventually I got all the armor. I had it all nice and pretty, had ammunition, everything. I'm like, okay, cool. And we logged out, and not even 12 hours later, because we were up kind of late, we log into the game and we had nothing. And that was when I just alt F4'd the game. I'm like, all right, I'm done.
Well, I remember another time that happened, and you just said, you just basically said F it, and we went down to the mission, and you were like picking up the guns off the people we were killing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just gonna shoot this one, it's out of ammo. You go run to the next gun. You're just picking up guns and shooting me.
Yep.
Like, I was like, I'm not even gonna bother. I don't care.
Yeah, I had the freaking starter pistol or whatever, and I killed someone, grabbed his gun. All right, I have a gun now.
Yeah. So that is an extremely gigantic source of frustration, but luckily it's going away. But
also those guns, they're not persistent. After a while, they're just gone.
Yeah, that's the thing. The persistence should also make it so if you shoot an NPC and the gun's on the ground, it will stay there. That is huge too. The question I had when it came to the idea of persistence and server meshing. Now, they talked about how that, let's say you can have 200 people in an area, and when the 201st person shows up, it spools up another instance. So you have, let's just make an easier number. 150 instance A, 150 people instance B. They're both, technically speaking, in the exact same location at the same time. Now, they talked about how that if you were to pick up a coffee cup and set it down, the coffee cup would be there next time you came. Now, obviously, they said within certain limits, like you can't put 1,000 turtles in a location. After a while, that they may want to take some of the older assets out to keep some things within a limit. So they might start slowly removing some of the older turtles or whatever. Okay, but let's say you've got instance A and instance B. You've got 2 people, one in each instance, and they each pick up a coffee cup and then deposit it on the ground near each other. How is that going to work when one server spools down? Or will the other coffee cup instantly show up for both people? They'll both see the coffee cup. Like there'll be 2 coffee cups in the ground in each server. So the reason I'm asking this kind of question is that I'm thinking things like mining nodes, right? You have a very popular location, and say there's there's a location found that's got a lot of resources, and you've got miner A mining out a resource here, and you got miner B in the next instance who's also mining the same location. Now, if it's going to a central database, if miner A was to stop mining, would you see the numbers of the resource go down as miner B is mining in his instance the same resource? Because if the resource is tied to a central database, so this is where the idea of server meshing plus persistence of resources and objects, and what happens when the 2 instances go back down to 1. How do these things come back into the game? How do they mesh? How does it? And I hope that kind of makes sense. But I look at this as potential problems with server meshing and spooling things up, resources, territory capture. And I'm wondering how they're going to deal with those scenarios. And maybe they're edge case scenarios, definitely, because you may not have 200 miners, 400 miners trying to get the same node. But you can think of maybe an asteroid field, that there's a lot of miners out there, and they're all trying to get the same thing. One gigantic, very rich asteroid's been discovered, and everyone's trying to get their piece. I just kind of sat there and thinking, maybe Lightning, you have some thoughts on it, but to me it seems like there's a lot of potential pitfalls.
We talked about this a little bit. I mean, the best way to do it would probably be just have a central database, so that, let's say there's 100,000 iron in this one location, and regardless of how many people are mining it on different servers, they're all pulling from that same node. Now, visually, where they're mining might be different, but it all comes out of the same place. And once that drops from 100,000 to 0, that's it. Doesn't matter what instance or server you're on. But you do bring up a good point, though, that it's a very, very edge case scenario. Because if you're talking about, let's say, a cave, right? Because I'm not sure, I don't have any numbers in front of me, how big the zone is for people as far as being on the same instance. Let's just say it's 10 miles or 10 kilometers or something, right? So it's pretty big. So that would encompass an entire cave system, right? What are the odds you're going to have 200 people at a cave system?
It's a cave raid.
And yeah, and all of them are just peaceful miners.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's more as I'm more interested in the idea of like what happens when you have different persistent objects on different instances that are located in the same area and when they get reduced back down. So it's just like, how does that come back into focus? So it's a curiosity to me. It really is. I mean, yeah, you're right. It is an edge case scenario, but what I'm more interested in is the idea of 2 becomes 1, and then what happens with the objects that were in 2, and how did they just pop back into 1? It's interesting.
I think I know where you're coming from. I think you're looking at this as this is going to be something that can be exploited if it's not done properly.
It could be, yeah. I mean, like, you know, and it could be weird scenarios. Like, okay, a ship crashes and explodes. Okay, on number 2, and there's a hull there. Okay, because they're gonna have persistence. So, but then like the battle's over, the players leave. There's a bunch of people in instance 1 that aren't having a fight, but they're just hanging out. So instance 2 shuts off because people leave. So these ship hulls just start popping up and falling on people because like they're like that were in this area that weren't there before. You know, like there was a battle in the city. So there's ship pieces coming from everywhere that just weren't there a minute ago because their server, you know, or session 2 shut down. I
imagine in that kind of scenario, what would happen is it would probably store information. I mean, ideally, right? This is ideal scenario.
Yeah.
Is if you have a big ship combat. Let's narrow this down even more. Let's say you have people exploring a desert because there's some kind of lockbox out there, right? They have a mission to go find a lockbox out in the desert.
Don't say lockbox. Read microtransactions. You don't need that in Star Citizen. We've already got enough with ships.
A box which is locked.
There we go.
When they have to go and find it for this mission because the guy's missing his box. And up in server instance 2, because apparently there's like 10,000 people in this instance, there's a space battle. I mean, the thing is, all this stuff goes away when you think about the amount of players. But we'll just for argument's sake, let's just say that there's like 10, 100,000 million people playing Star Citizen. So basically they have to shard it out. So there's a space battle, the ship crashes and it lands where the box, which is locked, is. But the people are still on server 1, are still exploring there. I would think that once the people leave that zone where the ship is, it's going to pull in information from instance 2 or database backup, and it's going to put that into instance 1 or server 1, so that if someone comes back to that area, they go, oh hey, we were just out here, we found this box which was locked, and now there's a crash ship.
So you're saying it won't actually apply them until next time, until
the area is unloaded, because there was a player there, so technically that area is loaded.
Right.
But
that would resolve, I think, some of the issues.
Yeah, but I don't think any of these things are really going to happen when you have to consider the fact that you're going to need upwards of 100 to 500 people all in the exact same area. Yeah. And I don't think that's just going to ever happen.
Maybe only around major cities and choke points, but it's a curiosity. Yeah. And I said, I know it's edge case, but it's sometimes these examples of things that can they lead to potential exploits. They could have bugs that break the game out of it. Like this happens and these two things merge and then suddenly the game crashes or whatever. So it's just a consideration. I was just thinking about it.
I don't think it's an unvalid or invalid consideration. I just think that it's such an extreme chance that the odds of it happening are like less than 1%. Like
Lightning?
Maybe. What?
Hi, I'm Jairus. I'd like to introduce you to me. That nothing ever edge case or extreme ever happens to me as I take my elevator and ride it through a planet into the sunset.
I mean, that happens all the time in Star Citizen because it's a game in progress.
It happens to be in almost every game, though. Not just elevators, but everything else. I mean, how many times have I been standing there like, I just fell through the world, or I just got thrown through the air like 60 miles. I don't know why.
Speaking of games, I was playing the Old Republic, and I was standing underneath an elevator. When you stand underneath an elevator, once the elevator comes all the way down, you pop up on top of it, because technically the place you were standing on doesn't exist anymore, so it pushes you up to the nearest one. Well, if you jump and you get bonked by the elevator, it puts you underneath it, which, is not where you're supposed to be, but you also aren't phasing through everything, so you get stuck between the walls, in the floors.
Nice.
Yeah, I had that happen recently. I'm like, okay, well, let's not do that ever again. But I mean, like, those kind of things are like the most common bugs. You're talking about when Saturn freaking gets aligned with Pluto on the 16th month of the winter solstice, and Halley's Comet is flying by, the world is going to be tilted by 0.1% axis, which is going to change the temperature of the planet by 1%. I mean, you're talking.
You mean basically when I
so
log? You mean basically what happens when I log in? Gotcha. Okay. So,
extreme edge case scenarios that are unlikely to ever happen.
yeah.
But the idea of a ship crashing where players are at, if it's a player ship, I imagine it's just going to stream that assets in there, and it's going to be really unlucky for them.
So do you hear something?
But there's another interesting idea though. Let's dial back the extreme edge case scenario.
All right.
What if there's a mission that applies your lootable to the same area that players already exist at?
Yeah.
That's a different one.
Yeah.
Now that would probably be more of a programming side where it's like check if there's something already here or if there's already players there, and that would be something that I could see happening a lot more often than 500 people all in the same area and spooling up multiple servers.
Yeah, you're right. That's an interesting one. Yes, like, okay, we spawned your box. Some guy goes, hey, look, box. And he just takes it and walks off with it. You're like, oh, you failed your mission. Reputation's going down.
Yeah, or in the same location of the box, there's also a crashed ship. We want to go to salvage this crashed ship for some the black box or whatever. Not a lock box, a black box. They're different. And then it spawns on top of the black box or the lock box, the box which is locked. I mean, that's I think that's a more likely scenario to happen than all the other things you've mentioned.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a curiosity. Now, getting back a little bit to what we talked about earlier, we were talking about the eating and drinking and the environmental suits. We have atmospheres or environments that require specialized equipment and suits in order to survive. They showed off the cold suit in the video, and basically the character was getting hypothermia until he was able to put the suit on, and it was a really cool effect, especially his hands shaking when he was grabbing the helmet. This is absolutely what the game needs as far as adding more depth and just wear heavier armor for whatever reason. I'm also curious with this new system, since they're going to be adding more details, at least interactivity with the water, if they're going to add like water suits, underwater breathing apparatus. I mean, obviously all the suits have that, but I mean, like they handle the pressure of being underwater. I'm curious to know if they're...
A regular spacesuit doesn't really have to deal with pressure.
Right.
It has to deal with opposite pressure.
Exactly. So like if you had an underwater suit, it would be different than what you'd see otherwise. So I'd be curious to see, like, this would open up all sorts of, like, oh, there's a wreck that's on the bottom of the ocean, and then you have to get this particular kind of suit. I'm really excited for that kind of gameplay too.
It sounds like they need to have some type of underwater submarine ship.
Ooh, we can pledge for that.
Oh boy.
All right, guys. That's it. That's the next great submarine. So we're good that way, and then it'll be like the Redeemer, and it'll be on the back burner for about 30 years. So that's the next one. Hashtag Redeemer love.
Throwing shade out here.
So all the planets are going to be having weather effects. Their weather simulation was an extension of the room system. It includes humidity, wind, temperature. It's all dynamic. And as I was watching the live stream they had on Friday, they talked about how eventually they would like to do seasons. They already have the technology where like snow could be applied to an object, so it can start snowing. You can watch the snow start covering the object, and right now it's not in. It's gonna be like in 3.9, I think. Right now it's not fully in, but as they're adding this, I mean, you can think like, well, Captain Tyler loves Christmas in Grand Theft Auto. He's like always like, oh, it's snowing, and he's just so it's that kind of technology. Lots of games have already done it. It just looks gorgeous. If they can do something like that and have it smoothly transition, wow. I think they'd need it anyway for Earth.
Off planet 2.0, and then we'll just set up our base there.
So no coming development. We have things like volumetric clouds are going to be coming in. They clearly showed the jump point. They went to Pyro. That was epic. The fact that they kept the original vision with the same kind of wormhole tunnel, all of it, fantastic. Loved it. I'm really looking forward to actually getting to you think about it. Second system, persistence, server meshing, and also the dynamic missions created through Quanta. You've got a game. I've said for the longest time that if we get a second system and all those things, that basically it's beta time, because all your major systems are in. The rest of it is like jobs and occupations and stuff like that. But the ability to get around the verse and do those major things is in. I keep coming back to this. I was extremely impressed with this presentation. The more of these systems that come online, the more complexity that you see inherent in this game. I have to keep coming back to this because it's still not resolved. This is not a Twitch game. Star Citizen is not a shooter. I've seen devs say shooter now repeatedly. What part of environmental systems and environmental suits and survival mechanics and weather effects, any of this has to do with getting your pew pew on and dead in a couple seconds of combat? The more the game develops, the less they can justify the direction they've gone with combat and flight. When you like look at the combined arms, which I think is a great potential test bed for a lot of the mechanics that we need, meshing air and ground, both vehicles and troops. It's very apparent from that 2017 video where they showed the Idris to combined arms that almost nothing has changed. The focus hasn't changed. The same vulnerabilities are there. And I'm hoping that combined arms exposes it really to the player base in a way that Arena Commander just hasn't. There's a lot of issues that could make combined arms a complete mess as far as respawns go. I think respawns, if they're going to have tickets or unlimited respawns, they should at least take you longer and longer to respawn for each death, so you just don't run and gun. They need to try to have some semblance of what it's going to be like in the persistent universe. If it's going to be a test bed for the persistent universe, it needs to behave like the intention of the persistent universe. For all the things that we've seen change in Star Citizen, the beautiful graphics, the amazing direction that things are going with sound design, and the upcoming mechanics, and the things like Quantum that Tony Z is doing, flight is still garbage. And it's not because of the physics. It's the values. Always the values. Oh, that and Infinite Jerk. So this is our last YouTube show. I may use YouTube to promote that there's a video on another platform coming out, but I'm moving over to BitChute, and now that I'm an affiliate at Twitch, BlastCast and things will be going to Twitch. That link's down below for all that. If you want to continue following the channel, please subscribe. I won't support YouTube anymore with what they're doing. What they're doing to creators, the direction they're going, it's garbage. Now, a lot of people say, oh, why would you go over these smaller platforms? They're never going to go anywhere. Look, they're never going to go anywhere if people don't start supporting them. Don't start going there. You're creating your own prison by sticking with this platform, by sticking with YouTube. You're not happy with it? If you stay here, they'll never do a thing. You vote with your wallets. I'm not a big channel. I don't care if I ever am. I'm moving to where people, I don't have to worry about getting fined and shut down because some guy had a burn in his underwear that day and decided he didn't like my video. Or retroactively they changed their policy and a video I did multiple years ago is now in some sort of violation. Or they consider it a kid's video and I get fined for something. I'm done with that. Lightning's already deleted his entire catalog on his channel.
Yeah, that's sad. I kind of miss doing it, but...
Well, as I said, if you want to ever make a video, I'll throw it on my BitChute channel, and I still got this the Dragon's Den, baby. It's alive and kicking. You're welcome to do it. I will just send it to me, and I'll upload it. But yeah, that's basically what's going on here. So I'm on Twitch, I'm on BitChute, I'm on Minds too. I mostly use Minds as a linking platform to other media, but also Twitter. But Twitter is the same thing. I just use it to link media, like here. That way it's easier. It's all kind of in one place. I'm sure you all have a lot of thoughts about this year's presentation. I think there's a lot of positive development. And I'm completely off script, but I don't care. I'm just speaking my mind here. I want to say a lot more of it, I think, interacting with you guys on the Monday stream, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I do a Q&A on Twitch. You're welcome to jump in. I want to get you guys involved. Things change from week to week in Star Citizen. I want to know what you guys think. So if you want that kind of interactivity, if you want someone who's willing to listen to your concerns and isn't going to shout you down like you would get on Reddit or Spectrum, drop in. Type your text in the chat. I'll try my best to look down and see it and respond to you. And there's other people in there too that they have concerns as well. And my Discord is full of great people, pilots, sim enthusiasts. If you've got concerns, links down below. Just jump in. Add to the conversation. Maybe you'll have a perspective that we don't. Maybe you'll be able to add something to the conversation that in a direction that we hadn't considered. We don't have all the answers. We're all of us are just human at the end of the day. We have ideas based upon math and the other games that we played that are similar genres and the history of the whole genre in general, but doesn't mean we have all the perfect answers. Now, Lightning's been doing a lot of streaming on Twitch, so that's one of the reasons he hasn't been on as many videos recently. He has got a day. He's streaming like sometimes 2-3 times a day.
Yeah.
On other people's channels. He's like becoming, I don't know, the Twitch gigolo, maybe?
Only on small channels.
Yeah. He's a Twitch gigolo, and everywhere he goes. But yeah, he's going to become, I wouldn't say internet famous, but maybe internet infamous. It's like, oh, it's that guy again. He's been on this channel too. What the heck?
I will be on all the channels soon.
But he'll still be around from time to time, and we do streams where we race each other in Forza, just for fun. So those are on there too, and whatever. No, and a lot of the main streams, so I feel like the ones that are worth archiving, I throw them up on the BitChute, so you're welcome to visit them there too. So, but yeah, this overall, and I said I'm just talking candidly here because this is the last YouTube video, and as far as officially goes, before I move on to other platforms, I'm really thankful to the guys that subscribed over these years. I was glad I was able to use this channel to get Lex Talionis and this group Speeded Angels, like that video that he made that I put out in the channel, got noticed and helped make a great organization in DCS. This channel has never been about the money. It's been about trying to fix Star Citizen. I love when people try to accuse me of wanting to make clickbait. I don't care. I just want Star Citizen to be great. And I don't care if this makes me lose subs moving over to other platforms for a while. I'm looking for people who can understand these things and care about it, who really, truly, and deeply care about this problem. And I'm really thankful for all the interactivity. And once again, just very grateful that so many people have been willing to step into this ring and to stand against the masses, I think, that don't understand these issues. I just can't thank you enough for it. So on that note, maybe this BlastCast wasn't as long as I thought it would be. Maybe there's some things still left to be said, but I think I want to say more of it on the live stream with you guys. We've done a lot of these. I think this is number 178.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. And there'll still be probably more in the future when I feel that something needs to be addressed. We have talked about flight in every aspect, in every mechanic. We've had guest interviews. We've had everything, every way we possibly could over these years, almost 4 years of doing this. At this point in time, it's not even recognizable as a horse to be beaten. It is well, there's no new ground to cover. Not yet. Now, if they have some sort of major flight development change, we can look at and we can discuss it and get your thoughts on it. But I think Lightning agrees with me that we just don't want to beat this dead horse anymore.
Yep.
And we want to have fun. I want to play Star Citizen with you guys. I want to get out there on a live stream and have you guys jump into the Discord and we can go out and just have a random day where we go out and play together. And we can talk about things. It could be a stream. It could be just a video clips that end up getting put into its own video, or nothing at all, just friends hanging out. I don't care. But that's what I want. I've always kind of wanted to build up a community of people who want to help out each other and are interested and concerned about the direction of the game. That's how I want to focus now. We've done the groundwork, and people like MHE and Speed Break, and there's an Alien War and Kim on the forums. Gosh, there's so many. I can't. I feel bad because I'm not even saying the names because there's so many of them. Several of them have even been on the shows, and it's just like, I have to pull my whole here. Let's just go ahead and go to my Discord channel here. Let's just go nuts. There we go. List here. There we go. Rogo. We got here. Let's see here. Hammy, of course. Hammy, Krell, Naiba. Even Raven, who's always like arguing the opposite points, but it's great. It keeps us sharp. Tom Atari, the face. There's just tons of people here that have just added so much. We'll see where this goes in the future, but anyway, I'm dragging on a bit, so
Yep.
I guess it's because it's the last episode for this platform, but
Don't cry.
I won't cry. It's a lot of effort though over these years. So many hours. But anyway, so on that note, we'll see you on BitChute. We'll see you on Discord. We'll see you on Twitch. Whatever else you want to use to link to us. So leave your thoughts down below, and we'll see you next time, wherever that may be.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Let me just put this paper down. Just make it crinkly. Here.
Oh, this the fucking crinkle sound effects. You need to just get a solid recording of just a paper crinkle for later.
It'd be like a second here. The sound of the BlastCast. Paper.
But without you talking, just like shuffling through papers.
Welcome to Citizen Gamer's ASMR video. This is the sound of crinkly paper. The notes of the BlastCast will now send a cool tingle down your spine. Yes.
I mean, that not the part where you're actually speaking, but just the end of the BlastCast is just paper crinkling. That'd be kind of funny.